Hi YouTube, Marielle here. Today is the 23rd of April and I just wanted to let you know that I've moved out of the House of Pain. Thanks to the few financial evidence I was able to gather, my angel warrior was able to advise me to get a decent place to move into. So I decided to move into a gated community for protection, just in case the wolf might decide to stalk me or harass me. I moved out while the temporary mutual restraining order was still in place, which legally does not prevent him from coming back to the house to get his things or something like that, while, I could be out of the house if we could have agreed on that. I moved out and I took everything. Doing this actually reminded me of Ivana Trump when she famously said, "Don't get mad, just take everything, darling." Over the years, hearing women doing that used to make me laugh. And I used to think that was strange and also unfair. But now I have gained a new, different perspective on this issue. And I must say that I never thought that would be me one day. One of my neighbors was kind enough to come help me pack, and I also hired a crew for to help me pick up the big things. I have rented a slightly smaller home than my marital home. I can assure you that I left the wolf stuff behind. But I also took everything else, even things I knew I did not need, and would most likely just clog my entryway for weeks and possibly months to come. And I would like to give you the excuse that I did not have the time to separate things when the packer arrived, that kind of thing. So it was easier to just take everything. And as much as it is the truth, I have to also tell you that there were also emotional and economical components to me choosing to take everything. The economical reasons are clear that in my situation, I have no income and no ability to refurbish a home without going into more debt, which I just can't afford, which is not the case for the wolf, who has the finances and the time and possibly another woman to take that burden off his hands. I have never been a frivolous buyer or a hoarder, but after 20 years of adult living, I had reached a place where I could shop back in my closet and in my home if I needed something. Same for things in the kitchen or things in if I needed to garden and I needed a tool, I could just go into my my shed or the garage, that kind of thing. My home was full of everything I needed on an everyday basis. For the emotional sides, for me, taking everything out of the house also were that I can just imagine how traumatic it would have been if it would have been in the future if every time I needed something, I would have to think to myself, oh, I used to have that, but now I have to go into the store to get those things back. And I have to also spend money I don't have. And I kind of thought that to have my mind being forced to go through that every time and possibly several times a day, if I had been forced to leave my belongings behind in my marital home, I can see how it triggers a lot of pain and which will delay me in my healing journey. I'm sure of it. Being forced to go through that on a daily would not only be depleting financially, but it will also take a lot of my precious time during the day by forcing me to dedicate time to run back to the stores all the time, which will trigger over and over and over again anger, frustrations, and a lot of negative emotions too, and make it even more difficult for me to retain a much needed psychological and emotional detachment from the wolf. because I'll be cursing him every single time I have to go back to the store to get something that I already owned or I used to own, and things like that. That's not good. It's just not good. I have already got to spend my time going back and forth getting therapy, which means I have to talk about him, just like I have to talk about him here. That keeps me attached to him. I have to go back, I have to go and take parental classes, once a week. I have to go and see my angel warrior because sometimes I have files that I just cannot just, email her. So I have to go physically. That takes time. And also now that my daughter is in rehab, I have to participate. I have to be there. I have to take classes. I have to do homework. That's a lot. And very soon I have to start looking for a job too. So that's a lot of things that are all going to conspire to disturb my emotional peace and psychological equilibrium. So having stuff that So for me, I think that having stuff that can keep my daily living running smoothly is just an extra added bonus. And it really makes a big difference. I admire those who have gone through this transition without ever complaining. Even here on YouTube, they just talk about narcissism and they leave it at that. And I had no idea how hard and stressful this could be. Now I kind of understand as well why, there's an awful lot of people like us in our situation who end up choosing to remain with their abusers, because it is a lot to consider, it is a lot to organize, and it is a lot to have to go through. And as we know, divorce is not easy, which means that it's a long process, and all of those tiny little things do keep you enmeshed and do keep you tangled and keep you emotionally and psychologically tied up with your abusers, whether you like it or not. Any kind of breakup is difficult. Experiencing loss is traumatic. But when you add what those individuals have done to our minds, it truly adds an extra layer of misery to everything else we have to endure. Which makes me realize, by taking everything with me, even though it is going to be sad every time I will have to go through my boxes, I still think it's going to be therapeutic for me in the long term to sort through my belongings, to either choose to donate or to dispose of in my own time. The place that I am in, it's bigger than I need it to be. And this is going to be a temporary place for me to be, because I'm here because the wolf is going to be forced no matter what to pay for it. But once the divorce is done, it's obvious that I'm going to have to downsize, which means that an awful lot of what I have, I'm going to have to get rid of. And that's okay, because I would have had the time to emotionally separate myself from those things, and that's good, and I need that time. It will help me bring closure to that part of my life in my own terms, and that's important. The more space and time I have to deal with all of this, the easier it will be for me to move on and to heal and start my new journey. One thing for sure is that I will never again make fun of people who empty their marital homes, and I will always pray for those who have no choice but to leave their marital home with just the clothes on their backs and have to start from scratch. That is very, very, very sad. And I do remember there was a time, and I'm sure for those of you who have been with me from the beginning, you know that I had considered doing that. And looking back, I'm glad. I'm very, very glad that I listened, and I'm very glad I was able not to take that route. I'm very, very grateful for that. So I have been in this brand new home for the past 2 days, and this morning I felt very sad. The reality of my situation really, really hit me hard. There are 4 individuals in my family, and the 4 of us are completely scattered now. My son is in a different country, and he doesn't talk to me. My daughter is in rehab, still trying her best to gaslight me every time I go and visit her. I have no idea where my husband is, and I am here in this, yes, lovely place, but nonetheless, I am completely alone. And I was supposed to be the matriarch of this family. I was supposed to be the guardian. I was supposed to be the glue that tied everybody together, that brought everybody together. It's very hard to deal with that, to deal with this truth. I understand that it's not my fault, but I can't help feeling like a failure. I can't help feeling all of those emotions. And it just makes, it doesn't feel good, and it makes it almost impossible for me to enjoy this small victory, of having left the house of pain and be here in this brand new home, and it's lovely, and it's clean, and it smells good, and it's very hard to enjoy the sun rising, and it's just hard. And also would like to tell you also that the hearing never happened. We never had our day in court, because somehow at the last minute we were told that we had to go back, we had to go through mediation first. I have no idea how this could have happened. I am left wondering if my Angel Warrior's assistant dropped the ball by not double-checking things, or whether my Wolf's lawyer was able to call in a favor and get this reversed to allow her to organize a defense for him. I am still in shock. I have no idea how this could happen. How could this happen? And also, by the way, my Wolf hired an attorney whose firm pride themselves in defending men's rights. And he did hire a female to represent him. And I can't help feeling anxious too about that. I suppose she's very good, and I'm sure he hired, he's paying an awful lot of money to have this female represent him. So I guess it's really on now, and there is no going back for me.